Morning.
Morning.
Hi there. What are we doing? Good.
Good.
I want to ask about Keegan Jones. Obviously, been very effective.
Yeah,
in
he
what
has.
he's been doing. Is that one of those things where somebody would look at and say, "Oh, why don't you use him more?" But then the flip side would be, well, maybe he's effective because he's used in select situations.
I think it's a combination of both. He's when you use receivers sometimes as running backs, it's a little bit change of pace for defenses and how to defend you. A lot of times we're motioning him into the backfield, forming a two-back set. He's been productive, but we've also had a lot of production out of our running backs also. So it's not like, hey, we're not getting production out of running back. Why don't we move him back to running back? Is that you're just trying to utilize him in a lot of different roles. Kaz did that before for us. We got a lot of production out of Kaz being a receiver, but also using him. You go specifically to the Arizona State game last year when Zach was down and we ran some receiver type run plays and Kaz was really effective doing that. So to have someone that is a multi-tool player like Keegan is it's tough for a defense to defend because you got to kind of figure out where he is. Some of it was him catching the ball, some of it is him coming back in the backfield and being a running back. So we hope when we get with the opportunity we can expand his role as we continue to move forward here.
Another thing that was very successful, obviously, was the clean packages.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, his status a little bit. Is he unavailable again today?
He's unavailable today.
Okay. Even if he's not available, is that something you would look at with one of the other quarterbacks, maybe mixing that in?
We do have the ability with other guys to do what Colin did. And we just, depending on who we're playing and what's going on, is how much part of the game plan that is. We felt like it was something that we could run against Oregon State last week, and Colin was really successful doing it. So, but there's a lot of offense, and then what we do on a weekly basis is how much can we carry on a weekly basis? Because what can you practice? You can run a lot of things, and then you're not really good at anything because you only run each play once during the week, and you're running a million plays. So, that's the fine line when you're game planning of what packages are going to be effective versus the defense and the personnel that the other school deploys, and then practice time. How do you get it all in? Because there's a ton of good ideas, but how do you practice it all? And I think being specific with it. So, but we do have the ability. We have some other quarterbacks that are runners that have the ability to run over 20 miles an hour like Colin does. So those guys have been practicing that. It's been something we've been doing for a while here. It just depends on what game and who we're playing, whether it's gonna be part of the package that week.
When you are game planning for a team, how much, if at all, do you use kind of statistical analysis when you're getting?
We use all of it. So, there's a ton of statistical analysis. On third down, what is their blitz percentage? On third down, how much man are you getting? How much cover 2 are you getting? How much cover 3 are you getting? That's all. We've always used statistics in that because you go into a third down package and don't have a lot of man routes and they play 90% man, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So there's a ton of that goes into it in terms of analyzing your opponents.
When you're starting a game plan for a particular opponent, does it start with some sort of cheat sheet about them, or do you just turn on the tape?
No, we've got every game that they've played this year, and if the coordinator's been there last year, or maybe if the coordinator was at another school, all those games are broken down. So we have all that information at our hands. So we can tell you their tendencies on first and second down. We can tell you their tendencies on second and long. We tell you their tendencies on second and long on the left hash in the coming out area. We have all that information available to us, and that's already done. And then we have a sequential way of how we look at it. What are our first and second down plays? What are our openers? What's third down look like? And then how do we break third down down? Is it third and short, third and medium, third and long, third and extra long? What's the red zone look like? What does the coming out area look like? So those are all broken down into categories. And then each coach on our staff has a specific area that is really their area of expertise. So they kind of will present. Sorry, we're going to talk about third down. Well, then Coach Gundy will give the third down presentation.
Looking at the snap counts the last 2 games now, looks like the offensive line's been kind of tightened up in the last 2 games. Is there anything specific that's contributed to that? Or?
It's just how Drev deploys those guys. We meet during every Saturday if it's a night game, or every Friday if it's an early morning Saturday game, and then go over the depth of first off, who's available. And again, we don't do that till the end of the week because you never know who's available. Stranger things have happened. Towards the end of the week where you say, hey, this is going to happen, and then all of a sudden you get to Friday and say, hey, he's out. Okay, well, what's our plan? So when we sit down, then we talk about team, who we're playing, who's playing well, what their practice was like that week. All those other things are all factors into going into that. So
You see any similarity between Dante's freshman year and Dorian's freshman year? Just the, growing through tough times.
Yeah,
and
I hadn't really thought about that. I'm not a big comparison guy, so I that's a good question, but I didn't even think of that, to be honest with you. So I couldn't say yay or nay. I think it's the reason I don't is it's apples and oranges. Is what's around them, where are you, all that other stuff. You know what I mean? It's I think Dorian kind of got thrown into the mix. Rose to number 2 during camp, and then Wilton was our starter. But then Wilton got hurt in the second quarter, hurt his back, which was he had a lingering back deal, and so Dorian kind of got thrown into the mix. As at that point in time, Dorian wasn't here for the spring, so really we had Dorian for 3 weeks in August, and then we were playing a game. So I think that was a little bit different. Obviously, Dante was an early enrollee in January, but I hadn't thought about that, to be honest with you, man.
Does Dante, having played a lot more than Dorian in high school, help him as a freshman?
I think he's got more experience. That was the one thing with Dorian. That's the one thing that we loved about Dorian. It was that he hadn't had a ton of reps. He was a receiver as a junior, and then his senior year they were so good he only played really in the first half of most games. So he had a limited exposure. So we always knew there was that huge upside for him. But the one thing you loved about him was his competitive nature and his will to win and all those other things. So he had a great combination there. So, but a lot of quarterbacks that play early, like the Trevor Lawrences of the world, if you study, Matt Barkley is another guy that comes to mind. Is they had a ton of reps in high school. It's really rare that someone that didn't play very much in high school, for whatever the circumstances are, that's going to come in and play as a true freshman. I coached Marcus at Oregon, and he was a kid that didn't play much during his junior year, then had an unbelievable senior year in Hawaii. But when he came in, we were fortunate enough that we redshirted him for a year, so his first start was as a redshirt freshman. Dorian and Dante kind of got thrown in the mix, but when you talk about the Trevor Lawrences and the Matt Barkleys, I think Matt played 4 years at Mater Dei. I know Trevor Lawrence played 4 years of high school football. They had a ton of reps and a ton of experience, and for that position, the amount of snaps that you can get live are huge, because practice is totally different than a game. Quarterbacks are not hit in practice anywhere, whether it's high school, college, professionals, whatever. So playing quarterback is a different deal practice-wise than any other position. So, those live reps are very invaluable.
And I know the other day you referenced their receivers' big performance against Colorado. Just from a matchup standpoint, what does he bring?
What's that? He's good sized, and it was really a breakout game for him. But I think his ability to run after the catch, not every ball was thrown deep. The one coming out, I think he caught a slant coming out on the 3-yard line, and that turned into a 97 or 90 whatever yard touchdown, where he ran away from some people, but he also made some people miss. So his ability to run after the catch, obviously we got to make sure that we're really sure in our tackling, sure in where we are from a leverage standpoint, that we have people on all sides of them, because it looks like sometimes in some of the things that happened in the Colorado game, one guy didn't get him down, and because one guy didn't get him down, you got to make sure you got a lot of guys running to the ball. But that was a performance for the ages. I think it almost all came in the second half. So there was 250 plus in the second half of a college football game. That's pretty impressive.
Stanford's defense obviously had to hold them down after being down 29.
They did.
What did they do better from that point forward?
I think as you watch Stanford's defense play, I just think they've grown from the Hawaii game to the Colorado game, and you continue to see constant improvement in those guys. As I think the better they understand Coach April's scheme, the better they're playing. I think they're playing a little bit more comfortable. I think they're playing with a little bit more confidence now. They got some really talented athletes on that side of the ball that can cause some problems for you. But I think the continuity of that defense from the first game of the year to the sixth game of the year has been really impressive. And even the continuity of that defense from the first half of that game to the second half of that game. And again, Colorado made some plays in the first half. That receiver for Colorado caught the shallow. Travis caught the shallow, and made a guy miss. He's a really special player, and you got to kind of tip your cap to him. It wasn't like that was an unsound defense that Stanford was in. It was a really good play by the wideout. Shador's a really, really talented quarterback, one of the most talented quarterbacks in the country. So, but to see them grow even over the course of that game was impressive to watch.
As a favorite team going into Pac-12 After Dark, Pac-12 After Dark means wackiness and anything can happen.
We don't pay attention to that. Pac-12 After Dark means Pac-12 after my bedtime, so that's the only thing that stands for us. But we've never talked about favored, not favored, underdog. That we approach every opponent with a ton of respect and defend their schemes and defend their personnel, and the other stuff I've never, and I don't know many coaches that ever talk about that part of it, who's favored, who's not favored. Sometimes they'll tell us during the week, like, hey, this is the point spread of the year. Like, really? I wouldn't have been the point spread I thought the game should have been. There's some games, and I've been in games where you think we're going to blow these guys out, and it's a dogfight. And then there's other games where like, wow, this is going to be a really close game, and it's a blowout. So, no one can predict what the outcomes of any of these things are going to be. So it's, I think if you can focus on the process and not worry about the things that you don't control. We don't control what Vegas sets it at, and a lot of times Vegas sets it because they want to get even money on both sides. That doesn't mean that they think this team is that many points better than that team. They just think if the money line's here, half's going to go here, half's going to go here, and then the house wins. So I don't really have much more than that.
This
So
will probably be one of your last 7:30 games, but going to the Big Ten. The assumption is most likely those start times are going to move up, right? And I know you don't like sitting around till 7:30, right?
no,
You're happy about that.
I don't know anybody that does. Do you guys?
No.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know anybody who does, except for the people that sell commercials. But it is what it is. I mean, it's part of the deal. And again, like when we talk about focusing on the process and not focusing on things we don't control, is just tell us when we're playing and we're going to be there. We like playing at times when it's convenient. I think it's especially for fans. And I think sometimes in this TV deal, and we all understand it, and it drives the business, and people all get paid, and I get all that. But I think sometimes we forget about the local fans, the people that actually want to go to the game. And I want to bring my kid to a football game. Well, it starts at 8 o'clock at night, and it's going to get over at midnight. Well, I don't know if I can bring my kid to that game. That's what I worry about, that part of it, and the fans that have to go, okay, what time is this game? And you can't plan it because every week you don't know when you're going to play. That part makes it difficult, but there's no crying on the yacht, so we're not going to cry about that. We're just going to get ready to go play a game against 7:30 against a good Stanford team that's coming off a really huge victory last week against Colorado. So,
Thank you.
all right, guys, thank you.